All right, welcome in to the Whistle Stop. He is the voice of the referees, Eliot. He is the voice of the player, Andrew, and I'm just here. So we've got this question in this week, and it's really not like a hey, I saw this, or hey, what about this thing that happened in my game? It's actually more just, I think, a common question people hear. I know I hear it when I'm at my kids' youth games or when I'm at our fields for Gotham is, man, why would somebody want to get into being a ref? I mean, a lot of people look at it as something that they would never want to do. So, Eliot, what is your background and why did you decide to become a ref?
I got into it quite late, relatively speaking. So I was 31 when I took the referees course. You can take it as young as 14 years old, and those are the kids when they take it at that age and they get fast tracked to the ones that you see ending up in MLS and the Premier League and FIFA and so on. So I got into it very late. It wasn't on my radar, but at that time I was going through a career change from law into education. And as I went into education, I also wanted to try and get more involved in football. So I did my referees course and my coaching course to try and turn those hobbies into something a little bit more than that could earn an income. So I was 31 years old. That was in 2010. But there were some clues before I was a referee, long before I was a referee. There was some clues that I would have the temperament and the mentality and also a tendency to enjoy it. So 3 examples would be I was about 18 and I did jury service in Crown Court, and I remember for those 2 weeks looking at the judge and the authority that he had in his courtroom and the respect that he was earning from both sides. And I remember thinking, not to do with refereeing, but just thought, wow, this man really commands respect and he's amazing at what he does and he's totally fair. So that left a lasting impression on me. As a player, I would play as an adult a lot of small-sided recreational football where we didn't have a referee. It was just 5v5 and we call our own fouls. And for the most part, we'd waste 5 minutes, 2 people arguing about, was it a foul? Was it a handball? Yes or no? And I was one of those guys who would just admit when I've done a foul, admit where I've handballed it, give the other team the ball and play on. And over time, incidents would happen in the game and players on both teams would look at me and go, Eliot, what did you see? So this was, again, long before I was a referee, but I seemed to be able to prioritize fairness over my own personal benefit, a quality in a ref that I didn't know was going to come in handy later down the line. And then the third clue, I would say, so I'm an Arsenal fan. I'd go to Arsenal games, again, before I was a referee, and there'd be 60,000 Arsenal fans in the Emirates screaming because they wanted a penalty or a handball or a foul. And I'd be sat in my seat going, I think the referee got that one right, actually. And again, you don't want 60,000 people like me in a stadium because that would make for an awful atmosphere. No one wants that. But it was a clue that, hey, maybe that's a good mentality to have as a referee. I can see beyond my personal bias. And I have a quest for finding the fidelity and getting the right outcome.
So, I mean, I guess in your just kind of your character, in your nature, what was it that was like that initial thing that made you say, you know what, I think I could do this, and this could be something I could actually be pretty good at?
That's a good question, and my answer is almost counterintuitive. I would describe my personality as being very high in agreeableness, the personality trait agreeableness. Now, people that are higher in agreeableness, they tend to be people pleasers. That's me. Avoid conflict and try and keep everyone happy. I like to take my time to deliberate over decisions. That does not predict for a good referee, those personality traits. But when I found myself on the field reffing, it was like there was behind the agreeableness a little bit of disagreeableness hidden on the inside that came out as a referee. Now, disagreeable doesn't mean a horrible person. It just means you're able to be a little bit more blunt, put your own feelings about keeping people happy to one side and say, no, it was a foul, it was a handball, and not be swayed by what people think of you. So I found that personality trait came out of me when I would referee in a way that it didn't come out outside off the field. So there was that. The other thing is that there's a lot of reasons not to referee, and a lot of people, they want to play as long as they can. If they're reffing, that means they're not playing. So as a player, I was the kind of player, I didn't need the ball at my feet the whole time. I wasn't the one that was going to try and dribble around everyone and ask for every pass. I was the kind of player who would be at the back, organizing, talking to my teammates and communicating and encouraging. And if I didn't get much of the ball in a game, I'm okay with that. So as a referee, I was still able to use all those attributes in a very transferable way. I'm quite a verbal communicator as a ref. I think it's an important skill. And so when I'm refereeing, I get all of that out of reffing that I did as a player. So I didn't miss being a player in the same way that maybe someone understandably would.
You kind of mentioned your law background. What were some of the kind of, I don't know, tricks or traits from that career that you use when you are out on the field reffing?
Well, you spend years studying law and applying it to facts. And so when you practice that, your processing speed gets very, very, very quick. When you're a referee, you haven't got really the opportunity to see something in front of you and take 10 seconds to go, okay, well, then there's this, and then there's this. And you have to be able to make quite an instantaneous decision. And so I think being able to have the ingredients of the laws of the game in your head and apply them instantly to the facts it's essential, so that decision making becomes almost automatic. So having a law background doesn't guarantee you're going to be a good ref, but I would say that would be the pervasive skill that helped me out a lot.
So wait, Andrew, we always introduce you as the player's voice, but you are also a referee. You went through a certification process just about a year or so ago. Yeah, and I think you also reffed when you were younger. What was that whole thing? As someone who likes to play, prefers to play, what drew you over to then also reffing?
Yeah, I suppose as the voice of the player, I should provide a little background there as well. I've been playing for as long as I can consciously remember. I played all the way through college as well. So, yeah, I certainly got into soccer as a player, and it's probably my biggest passion. I started officiating. I first was certified when I was 15. That was more out of a desire to make some money as a 15-year-old with a flexible schedule, less so than I was actually interested in refereeing itself. My first year as an official was pretty brutal. I hated it, so I did not get recertified. I didn't get recertified again until I went back to college. Really more or less the same situation. College needed some additional income. I felt like I knew the sport really well, so I thought it'd be something that I could do. That experience was much better. By then, I think the maturing made refereeing much easier. But then after that, obviously, I got involved with Gotham, and my interest in refereeing really grew from just having to hire and schedule and manage referees. I would really say what drew me to it, post college, was really seeing so many of our officials struggle and receive a lot of abuse. It became a situation where I wanted to understand it better. And I also just had to referee, given the nature of the job.
Yep.
And I started to realize that it was something I really liked. I found it really fascinating. And it's been hugely beneficial to both my full-time job, but it's now become something it's much more than that. I really enjoy officiating. If something were to happen and I wasn't working for Gotham tomorrow, I think I would still keep refereeing. So it's something I've really enjoyed learning a lot more about over the last handful of years. I've been certified for most of my adult life. Been a few years I took off that I had to get recertified, but it's something I've been doing now for 16 years. So,
okay, quickly, your favorite and least favorite part about being a referee?
ooh, okay, good one. I really love high intensity, high quality matches. I enjoy managing those types of matches. The more talent on the field and the more importance in the game, I feel like it really improves my own level, and I really enjoy that. Enjoy the challenge of trying to keep up with some really great athletes and some great players on the field. So I enjoy that challenge. I think my least favorite part of officiating is certainly dealing with irrational. I would say the youth game is the most frustrating to me. So dealing with irrational parents, coaches, I tend to have a bit more sympathy for, although they are also frustrating. So I think it's just processing that people are wildly irrational and have no idea what they're talking about, and trying to consider that when you're responding to certain things that are being thrown your way. So that's definitely my least favorite part.
Eliot,
Same questions to you.
Favorite thing about being a ref? Well, a couple of things. Firstly, you hear about athletes being in the zone as a player, and that applies just as much for referees. And I think getting yourself in the zone in the middle of a game as a referee is as meaningful and satisfying as anything else. So for a referee, that means a game that's testing you physically. It's testing your player management skills and your ability to control a match. It's testing your reading of the game and how teams are playing, patterns of play. So when you're right on the edge of your ability and contributing to the game in that sense, I think that's a very addictive feeling for a referee. And if you know that feeling as a player, then I'm sure you'll understand that. It's also an amazing community. When we're out on the field, we can be a bit of a lone wolf, especially if it's a one-man crew and not even a three-man crew. But out there, think about how many games are going on where there's a referee. When the game's over, and we have our monthly meetings and we have our gatherings and we get together when we ask each other questions and ask one another for advice. This happened to me on a game. What would you have done, or what have you done when it's been similar? There's a community out there that's very tightly knit. We're very much a third team, and when we get together, it's great. I think my least favorite thing about being a referee is similar to Andrew. It's dealing with people who are how do I say it? Not led by emotion, but where the solution
bias.
Bias is inevitable, but the solution to appeasing them isn't to give them a logical explanation, because if you're coming from an emotional place and you've got a referee saying, oh well, actually this is what happened, ABC, sometimes that's not the way to appease someone. So it can be hard to find that way of meeting someone, engaging with them, appeasing them, and sometimes that's a challenge, because there are people out there that are not going to accept what you say regardless. So you do have to encounter people that you're just not going to win them over. And for an agreeable person, like I said, I can put that to one side to a certain extent, but where I'm refereeing, but I still have a drive to keep people happy. And sometimes when I can't do that, I think, oh man, that's a frustration.
If you ever see something dodgy in a game you're watching, or something frustrating happens in a game you're playing in, send it in to us. We will chop it up, break it down right here on the Whistle Stop.